Thank you, Madam President, dear Commissioner, dear colleagues. The end-of-life vehicle regulation supports circular vehicle design and sustainable waste management. There are two main objectives of this legislation: to reduce the negative impact to the environment and to solve the problem of critical raw materials in Europe. The demand for rare earth elements and other materials is increasing, and Europe lacks these resources. That means that circular economy and efficient recycling is a must-do for the European Union. So, dear colleagues, I think we have achieved the necessary balance in the proposed compromise, advocating for realistic targets and a fair level playing field for all the stakeholders in a broad automotive sector and beyond. Some specific points I want to address. Only the base vehicles remains in the scope to protect SMEs from excessive burdens. The explicit exemptions are introduced for trailers, motor caravans, military and special purpose vehicles, also vehicles of historical and cultural interest. The compromise lowers the mandatory recycled plastic target to 20%, to be reached 6 years after the regulation enters into force, and 25% in 10 years. Of this, 15% must come from recycled plastic from end-of-life vehicles themselves. The so-called closed-loop target. Up to 50% of the target can come from pre-consumer waste. The compromise secures that components must only be designed for removal when technically feasible, ensuring recyclability and reuse without unrealistic burdens. Proposal shifted the obligation to company-wide circularity strategies, not per model, cutting red tape for all, especially SMEs once again. There are no mandatory contracts between producers and treatment operators to protect SMEs and in the application of extended producer responsibility. In Article 37, the documentation requirements apply only to exports, not to sales within the European Union. Roadworthy vehicles can be sold without any additional documentation. This is very important while we do have millions of contracts in the EU, and this would be the undue administrative burden. And I am not sure if it would help to fight missing vehicle problem. Well, missing vehicles are missing because they are illegally dismantled, and we should rather enforce the fight with illegal dismantling and harmonise the registration and deregistration process. The compromise based the distinction between used vehicles and end-of-life vehicles on technical criteria, while safeguarding owners' right to repair. Treatment facility rules refined so that mandatory component removal applies only when technically feasible, once again, balancing environmental ambition with industrial practicality. Dear colleagues, I would like to thank you all for your amendments, valuable discussions and constructive negotiations, finally reaching the compromise. Many thanks to all the advisors who made the tremendous job, and also to my co-rapporteur from ENVI Committee. I ask you to support the well-balanced proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now for the Commissioner, I call Commissioner Jessica Rosval. You have the floor.